So in this video, I am working with Sam on his associations with bridling. He is a horse that has some negative associations with the bridle, and just kind of a general theme for him is he has some challenges with control of his body, being influenceable. I think it is hard for him to trust that he can be influenceable. So I will say, this is not a training video. This is not how I think you should bridle your horse. This is not how I bridle every horse. This isn't even how I bridle this horse all the time. This is what it looks like if I am going to spend some time actively working on his associations with the bridle and with his associations of being influenced or controlled by people. So I will go ahead and start and we'll talk you through it. So right away, I pick up the bridle and he rather quickly says, "Yeah, no thanks. Bye." Obviously, he can only say so much because he's in a stall with me and he's on a halter. But rather than advance at him or correct him or do anything when he does that, I just wait. And he shows us the impact of that. It's not up to me what's impactful. He tells me what's impactful to him. How it got there, why it's like this, it honestly doesn't matter. But he told me, yeah, you gotta grab the bridle. I would prefer to go the other way. And I said, I see that. No problem. So after I gave him some time, as I go around, he has less, negative feelings about it, perhaps. Now, I end up repositioning him mostly just so we can make sure the camera sees us. Now, as we came around, did he try to pull away again? Yeah, it's because I'm holding his bridle and he knows what's up and he has some feelings about that. So I touch him to see if I can just bring his attention back to me. And I intentionally left him alone and let him get distant there. And I don't choose to advance right back to approaching him with the bridle again. I just ask for his attention when I touch him and see if he's willing to engage with me, see if he's willing to talk with me. As he looks away, I think he is saying, no, I don't want to do that, and I'm just gently asking him to reconsider. There, he does reconsider, and I back off. Would he have reconsidered if I didn't ask and I just waited? I don't think so. Maybe, and maybe it would have taken longer. Not that that's the end of the world. The time is not the issue. It's that I don't know that without my help if it would occur to him. So here, I'm going to actually back this up. So I'll finish that thought without me stepping in and saying, hey, can you consider this bridle? I don't know if it would have. I think he would have just stayed distant. Maybe kind of woke up out of it, but I don't think he would have come around to the bridle like he did if when I suggested it, let's say. And then we see a spot where I'll back it up just a little, I'm suggesting it, but he is resisting it. And so we see that, again, here as I ask him to come over, we can see that twist in his head right there. His head kind of wants to go the other way. It doesn't just wrap around. There it changes. There it does wrap around, and I say thank you for reconsidering what I was asking. Once again, as I kind of approach, he's not so sure, but then he reconsiders or engages with me in the bridle, we could say. Now I'm repositioning him a little bit because I didn't really want him like backed up to the wall, but I was just kind of trying to find a spot where we were in view. So the bridle approaches, you can see him look away and kind of say, no thanks, and I ask if he can reconsider. Now he has wrapped around with me, but he's not thrilled about it, let's say. So he's there, but you can see him kind of snaking out of it a little bit. He is tight in his neck. He is contracted in this area right here. Everything about his neck is short, contracted, hold up this way. He's there with me. He is being compliant, but he is not engaged in the process. I think it is this kind of stuff. If I just carried on with that state of mind, I think that's sort of what caused this habit of his. So I just wait here until he can soften a little bit. He thinks he needs to get away, and I ask him to reconsider. As he looks out here, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think he gets distant on purpose because he's not particularly comfortable with what I am doing with him, which is why I start to rock him a little bit side to side here to kind of remind him that we're here having this conversation. He doesn't have to go distant. Now, right before he licked, that throat latch area started to loosen up. He relaxed a little, and then he went distant again, as if he were kind of feeling a little more relaxed, and then, not sure that I can really do that. I just continue to ask him to reconsider, really gently rocking him a little bit here just to help soften things, help him stay with me, stay in his body, stay here with this conversation. There it starts to get genuinely softer, and so I back off and let him think about that there. He went from actively blocking me, not going with me, and just kind of not being home, to softening and curving right around with me. There, I love that he engaged and wrapped around to me. Now this thing I'm doing with my hands is, you could say, something that is built in already with him. It's something we've done a lot. He likes when I have a little pressure in that area, and he kind of already knows how to release to it. He knows how to release his tissues, and here you can see his throat latch area starts to open the more it sucks back there, but there it opens again, and I let it go because he went from retracting to softening, opening that neck. So I'm trying to reprogram that it can feel good when I influence you. I'm not trying to take from you. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to influence you, and it can feel good. And that's what I want to show him, so that we hopefully have less and less of this defensive behavior in relation to the bridle or anything else that may come up in the tack or the training or whatever. So we're just playing again with those, with that spot he likes. Now he did hear a noise here, and I could hear the noise. It kind of doesn't matter if I know what he's looking at or not. I just try to use all the information I have to determine, is there genuine concern over something real, or is his body telling him to be concerned because he doesn't feel that's safe? I'm going to work through it either way. Doesn't mean we just stop. We're going to work through whatever causes him to go distant and not stay connected with me. So I went to approach with a bridle. There was genuinely a thing, and there was obviously another startled horse there, so no big deal. So I love how he's engaging with me here. He's allowing me to influence him, and it's super soft, and there's no resistance there and twisting. He's willing to do it. Now, is that because the bridle isn't really prepared to go on yet? It likely is. But we're just sort of building that softness back in. Oh, look, I got the bridle ready, and suddenly we can't wrap around anymore. So this is just what we are trying to reprogram, trying to show him this. It's not him consciously, I don't even think, but we'll say we're going to show his nervous system another option when it comes to being influenced and using tack and this and that. That was lovely. I feel like he allowed me to kind of interrupt his thought of blocking me, and then he came to me, and once again he shows us where like he feels safe, he feels relaxed, and then he's like, oh no, exit. There he actually like walked around. He didn't actually leave, but in some of those times he doesn't even walk around that much. But you can tell he thinks, oh, I'd leave if I could. I don't take this personally, those responses. I don't take those responses personally. I just think it's kind of what the body and the brain is doing. It's no problem. I just want to keep building in different options for him to choose. This helps a lovely big breath there. As the throat latch opens, the neck gets softer. So we saw those little twitches where he's like, you could say he's trying to get away. He could get away if he wanted to. I'm barely holding him. But you can see that like the body taking over and trying to tell him he needs to leave, and then I suggest he stays. We're working through it. So hopefully by now you're getting a theme. You could see why I retreated from his head there. He had a little bit of a struggle. I asked him if he could remain influenceable. He was able to find it again, so I backed off. In a little distance, so I just remind him that we're here, ask if he can come back. Didn't love how he was like crunched into the wall. But I'm not trying to make him feel trapped or anything like that. So I check in on what it takes to bring his attention back to me. Didn't take too much. Don't mind me randomly talking on the video. The audio was no good, so we're just hanging out, watching Sam. So we come in here and do this this thing that he likes. That was another example of the throat latch opening. His neck is getting longer, not retracting and getting shorter. His head does happen to go down there, and I follow him there, but it's not about getting his head down. It's about getting rid of the brace and the retraction. Him letting that go. I can't make that go away. That's up to him to let go of those muscles. So I don't think it's any coincidence that he's a little distant there, looking off into the distance, I mean, as that bridle came closer. I will note, however, that it wasn't so much of a no thank you like it was in the beginning, and then shortly after, he literally just steps over to me. So he is starting to get in that frame of mind, and he's willing to stay wrapped around. I'm not forcing him to stay there. And he often will do this where he takes the bit and do his teeth for a moment before he chooses to bring it in, and that's fine if that's what he needs to do. I'm not going to force it or anything like that. So he's kind of holding it, and then he takes it up in there. Unfortunately for Sam, I thought that I had this bridle adjusted correctly for him. But once I got it on there, I realized I did not. So unfortunately, I had to go wiggle around with this stuff. Wasn't really my intention, but here we are. Now, this, you're going to see Sam do all kinds of releasing and yawning and things here. I feel like with him, he will do that anytime you break the seal. So he's a horse that will be very internal. He will have a tight mouth, tight jaws. He's just kind of in there for certain things at times. But that's one of the things I like about a bit for him is it kind of breaks the seal and doesn't allow him to hide there, if we want to look at it that way. He's kind of hiding in this little ball of tension. Now I think asking him to dissolve that ball of tension comes with a big responsibility. It's not going to work out if I ask him to dissolve this tension all the time and release and let all this stuff go, and then I go do stuff that's doesn't suit him. We'll just leave it at that. We could mince words on that forever. But anyway, point being, what I do after I get this far and ask him to be this vulnerable really matters. How I use this bridle once I ask him to get here really matters. Anywho, as I am, I'm playing around quite a bit here with where it's sitting in relation to his teeth and all of that. But after all that yawning and stuff, he really starts to get quite peaceful. Because I do think it feels good for him to let that tension go, that, that he's holding it here, and then like we break the seal and then he lets it go and then he does feel a little better, a little more relaxed. The challenging part about this horse is then turning that relaxed horse into one that can go be athletic without just clenching up again, not just the jaws, clenching up his whole body, clenching up his mind. So I'm still messing around here with where that's sitting. He isn't too bothered by any of that, which is lovely. I'm going to move us along a little bit here. Still pondering wrinkles and teeth and tongues and things. I think I'm almost done, however. Lovely, sweet boy. So I'm just playing with these ears a little bit. When he's tight in his jaws, those ears are not very mobile. So doing some circles and just helping him feel good, changing that association about what happens when we put on a bridle. As I mentioned, the hard part with him is getting this relaxed horse who's engaging and cute to be interested in doing athletic things. Once again, being influenceable, but influenceable while doing more than just turning his head to me. So I start to play with moving him just the tiniest little bits, rocking his body and things like that. And he will show us, even with the very small level that I start to influence him on or move him on, because it doesn't turn into a fight, I would say, because it doesn't turn into me forcing a bunch of stuff. He ends up having, more releases and things. So I'm going to start to shift his weight around and ask him to open up those hind legs a little wider and actually stand on them. And already you can see just from that, asking him to be influenced and to shift his weight a little bit, he has a release there. He wants to be back in that super relaxed zone. And I say, but could you possibly be a little bit more engaged in your body, a little more prepared to do something and stay relaxed? That's a hard thing for him. So I'm asking him now with a little bit of left flexion to shift his weight onto his right hind, that hind closest to us there. He can't quite do it yet. Just use a tiny little, how I'm getting him to do it doesn't even matter. I'm suggesting. That's basically what I'm doing. I'm suggesting. And what does he do? He's like, okay, let me just fall onto this leg and I'll still stand super relaxed and not engaged. So just going to keep playing with him and helping him understand my point. So now I'm creating a little bit of a right flexion, seeing if I can help him put that weight into his hind leg. Now I switch back to a little bit of a left flexion. Can we open those back legs up a little bit? A little resistance here. We choose to just relocate altogether so we're not having the wall have too much of a influence on what's happening. And this is not about like standing square. Standing square, I would say, is a result of what happens when I get him to shift his weight a little more evenly, get him to use and stand on his hind end instead of just stay super relaxed, leaning mostly on the front legs and kind of dumping down into his chest, we could say. So all this releasing, I believe, is just from realigning him. I've realigned him and rebalanced him a little bit. He has allowed me to influence him without it being a big struggle. And he has a big feeling about that and releases some tension. Is it a coincidence that he goes into that safe, relaxed, oh, I'm gonna do this thing, and then gets a little looking? I don't think that's a coincidence. I think he gets concerned about, can he let down that far? Can he be this relaxed? Can he be this vulnerable? And then he gets a little, I don't know. But that's exactly why we're working on it. So a little uncomfortable here. Is it because he just needs time? Is it because I'm up by his head instead of standing back like near the saddle area? Not sure. He's kind of coming to me with his head, and I'll say he's asking for me to do this. I've got my hands like this on his muzzle. Sometimes it's outside of his lip. Sometimes it's under his lip directly on the gums. It, I believe, helps him to release, and then you can see he has this big old release going on once I help him there. So he got very relaxed, and then he's kind of back in that dumped forward into the chest and onto the front legs, and I once again go back to asking, well, could you stand up? Could we shift some of that weight to your hind end? Could we use the whole body and stand in a little bit more engaged, prepared to do something way? So as he shifts those hind legs, I just keep using different flexions, different suggestions to see if he can kind of reposition himself. I think there is value in repositioning himself as far as balance goes, but just the act of me asking and not forcing anything and just showing him that he can be influenceable and it's not going to hurt and it's not going to be terrible and it can feel good and he doesn't have to contract all his muscles against me and all of that. That's what we're practicing. I could just, when he rests a leg, I could just think straight back, but I try to use the flexions to my advantage because ideally I will get him to go from resting a leg to standing it a little wider than how he has them. I want him to have a nice 4 corners with those legs if possible. Doing the hand thing there, and he had another. You couldn't see. You couldn't see my hand, but he had a opening of the throat latch. He also had a little feeling on the other side of it too. So it's certainly easy to say in retrospect, maybe he would appreciated me going back by the saddle area instead of staying up in front of him, even though I didn't have my belly button pointed right at his face. Here I have pivoted it to the left, away from him a little more, and he does seem more subtle with that. We're just going through some processing here. So now I'm asking him to step over with his hind end. Now I'm asking the front end just to step on that one. But there he was quite influenceable. Didn't take a lot of anything for me, really, just a little suggesting to move him around there. There wasn't a whole lot of resistance in it. Well, I was pondering whether I was going to end or what my plan was going to be. Was it a coincidence that he turned away? I don't know. But it doesn't really matter because it was no big deal for me to say, hey, I don't really want you to turn away and get your butt closer to me than your head at the moment. And it was easy to fix. Here we do have a genuine startle. So I just choose to join them at looking at it for a moment. Just do this because he likes it. I think he wants it again. So now we just kind of repeat our process here, I believe. It's not such a process because he's already in a good state of mind about things. He's not trying to actively block me. When he takes it out, he usually will hold on to it in his teeth again before he lets it go. There's a strange little response there. I don't, that little bubble. I don't know what that was all about. Sometimes I think that's a nervous system thing. Doesn't really matter though, because he's obviously feeling fine here. I'll wait for him while he takes his little paws with the bit down by his teeth, and then he just sort of takes it up into his mouth. Okay, well, there you have it. So like I said, this is not a training video. This is not a how I bridle Sam video. This is not a how you should bridle your horse video. This is just talking about some negative associations, creating better ones, and teaching a horse's mind, body, and nervous system that they can be influenceable, that it doesn't have to be a fight, doesn't have to be a tension producing interaction. It can be a tension releasing interaction.